My first taste of true freedom came to me when I was living in a yoga center on a hippie island off the coast of British Columbia, Canada. I was 23 years old and I was learning all about these philosophies that brought enlightenment, brought freedom, brought peace of mind. I quickly realized that this freedom was not sustainable in the life and the world that I lived. The main issue being that myself and all of the people that were around me had freedom of mind to an extent, but we were all broke. Spirituality and the practices that I was learning back then are all very important and part of my life today. However, they're just a part of the puzzle, and they ultimately have played an important role in arriving at my own version of freedom. This video is going to break down the good, the bad, and the ugly of my journey to becoming a solopreneur, creative entrepreneur, whatever words you want to put there. I'm going to include some juicy stuff around my mistakes, money, things. The whole point here is that I just want you to be able to learn something from the things I did, the things I didn't do, the things I could have done sooner. Hopefully it inspires you with whatever you're working on. I'm quite warm. So after my journey at that yoga center, I started my first business endeavor, which was, of course, to be a yoga teacher. And part of that business was writing a blog. I don't know what I was trying to do exactly. I like the idea of feeling busy. That is definitely not a good character trait to have. I've come to learn. Nowadays, I'm not really very busy, but I'm a hell of a lot more profitable and productive than I was at that time. So I was writing these blogs on Medium about mindfulness and self-help and stuff. And I would see that people who were also posting things there, they would always have, like, at the end of their posts, they would have like, join 742,000 other intelligent people who are getting my weekly morning productivity tips. And I had no idea what they were doing. I didn't understand, but it was pretty apparent that they were making a living from this if they had that many people tuning in for their productivity tips. But I didn't know anything about anything. I was just there writing articles about how to meditate and why your fears aren't real. Alas, the only thing I got out of this experience was a sore back because I made no money and nobody read my articles aside from like 3 friends on Facebook, because that's where I shared it. Ironically, I don't even know if anyone in my real life, apart from my friend Jack, watches these videos. The point there is, don't bother sharing your stuff with people in your real life. They don't care. They're not your target audience. Your target audience will find you. At this point, I was aware it was possible to make money by doing things you wanted to do, because these guys like writing. I just didn't know how to do it yet. So maybe less than a year after setting up this yoga business and attempting to make some money out of it, I didn't make any money. I think to this day, Medium still emails me to tell me that I haven't reached the threshold for a payout. I think I've got like a balance of 52 cents that they owe me. And that's from like 8 years ago, which goes to show how successful that endeavor was. So naturally, after that effort and failure and no reward, I decided to run away from my problems. So I bought a camera and I bought a GoPro and I booked a ticket to Cyprus. Decided I was just going to become a travel vlogger. Now at the time I had probably 42 subscribers on a different YouTube channel, not this one. My goal was to use the money I had about €1,000 at the time, and I was going to just travel with that and hitchhike around and, you know, live a budget life, but be making travel vlogs, because I saw lots of people were making travel vlogs and they were living their life that way. So I figured, why, I can do that. I have, you know, some decent videography skills and I can edit and stuff like that, so I'll give that a go. And that didn't go very well because I didn't really know what I was doing in terms of YouTube. Like, I knew that I was able to video things and make things look nice, but I didn't understand YouTube. And that was to my detriment, because I made probably, like, of those vlogs, I made like maybe like 20 little movies, and I think the most views any of those got was like 50, and they're all unlisted now, but I might just pop up some clips here that you can have a laugh at. And don't get me wrong, that trip was wild. It was amazing. I got some incredible memories, some incredible friends, and some pretty sick footage that I still use to this day. But at the time, I was just waiting for a miracle to happen. I was just praying that I would manifest some magical abundance that would just shower down upon me without having to be disciplined and diligent in what I was doing. Because the truth is, I didn't really know what I was doing. I was kind of just winging it and praying for the best. I don't want to come across as a fun sponge to my past self or to anyone watching this, But figuring out some sort of system and some sort of roadmap is highly beneficial, and you will thank yourself for it. I know in the moment when you're off gallivanting, it's like, oh, I don't need any rules. I hear you. I've been there. I'm there a lot of the time now. But actually learning from other people and observing things that do work and then practicing those things was super beneficial for me, and I think it could be for you too. And if you're struggling after a long period of time, couldn't hurt to try it yourself. Now eventually I did figure out my own unique way of doing this, but at that time I was not really of interest to anybody as far as business and an audience goes, and I was going nowhere fast. I wanted life to be an adventure, but I didn't want the adventure to end because my bank balance went too low. I wanted my adventures to end because I desired for them to end. Because sometimes in my life now, I just like living a boring life. I like having a house to come home to, and you know, I can cook my dal in my kitchen and put it in the fridge and have it tomorrow as well. And if I want to, I can take a trip. And most of those trips are work trips now, because I'm always doing some sort of content when I'm away, because that's part of the brand. So by setting yourself up and doing the right things, you unlock a lot of freedom for yourself if you have the discipline to do so. Ironically, you need to take on responsibility before you can actually achieve freedom. So after that big adventure came to a conclusion, I was really at my wit's end. I didn't know what to do from here. I was just really sick and tired of failing over and over and ending up broke, living at home. And to be honest, I just felt like a bit of a loser because everyone else around me was, you know, going somewhere in some direction. And I was kind of just with my wheels spinning. And at this point, I started applying for jobs at different media companies or whatever I could see that I could potentially do. And I couldn't even get a job. Like, nobody even got back to me. For a 6-month period, I was applying for places, and I didn't get a single rejection, which was kind of ironic because some people say taking a job is the easy path. In my experience, it was literally more difficult for me to get a job, so I just said, well, I'll just start a business. And this is when I got my first taste of client work, and specifically low ticket client work. So, you know, these were small jobs like 10 euros an hour or 100 euros for like a little project that would take a day. And ultimately that's not sustainable. Do it for 1-2 projects, but get away from that as fast as possible. And you might say, well, how can I get away from that? Like, that's all I'm able to deliver in terms of value. Well, I would say no, that's not true. If you can deliver something for 100 euro, the difference isn't what you're delivering, the difference is the person you're delivering it to. So that person might only have 100 euro, fine. But you could probably find someone that has 1,000 euro that will pay you to do the exact same thing. I've literally done this. If you're not willing to charge more, you're probably shooting yourself in the foot, because there is a client that's willing to pay you, but you don't do it because you're afraid to ask. Well, if you don't ask, you're never going to get it. So the best way to overcome this is to just tell the next person that asks you to do some work for them, tell them a higher price than you usually do, and see what happens. They might say no, in which case, doesn't matter. The next time someone comes around, say it again, see what they say. The first time I ever did this, I was really nervous. I'd 5x my day rate, and I said it to this person, and I was there nervously awaiting the text message response, and they said, sounds good. So all of that worry, like I could have done that like a year before, and I would have been making a lot more money a lot faster, but instead I was being a little wimp. You're worth more than you think, my friend, so just ask for it. At this stage of my journey, I was still having to subsidize my income because I wasn't supporting myself solely off of all of the freelancey stuff, because it's touch and go. So I was just delivering food, like literally I was delivering takeaway to people and listening to podcasts and learning and just doing what I needed to do to get by. So around this time, my YouTube channel, I had revamped it, started a new one, and I was starting to get traction on it. And in May of 2023, I had my first like super viral video. It's called How Self-Improvement Ruined My Life. It's got about 600,000 views now. And I was on the map. And funnily enough, that video to this day has earned me 200 euros, and it's devastating because that would have been like an overnight success in terms of my bank account going up, but this channel wasn't monetized. So I think I got like 500,000 views or more, and the channel wasn't monetized, so I just wasn't getting any money for that, which is devastating. This is a good opportunity to mention monetization should not be hinging upon the views on your video. You want to get a quality viewer, and you want to have an offer to send that viewer to, because otherwise you're just relying on YouTube sending your videos out to, you know, hundreds of thousands of people, and you can't reliably get that result. And it's just not worth the stress of trying to get a banger every time you upload. So actually my primary income has nothing to do with the YouTube AdSense, but rather it's YouTube as a platform that I market my brand and my services and products from. I attribute any progress that I've ever made to taking action, even when I didn't really know if it was the right action, when I wasn't confident in what I was doing. And it seems to me that's what holds a lot of the people back that I speak to and that reach out when it comes to their goals, is they spend too much time talking about their goals and not enough time just taking imperfect steps toward their goals. And you're gonna make mistakes. You're gonna make lots of mistakes. I made so many mistakes taking on different projects or people that I thought I could manage for a certain price, and then I realized that actually it wasn't worth that price to me because it took too much of my mental energy, or I just didn't like the person. I did a job about a year ago. It was the biggest job I'd ever done at that point in terms of like the logistics and the upfront costs that I had to pay. And I was lucky that I had the funds in the business to pay for what I needed to pay for. But long story short, it was a production that required like 4 actors. I had to rent this whole university building. I had to get insurance. I had to organize everybody to be there at the same time. I was shooting, directing, editing the whole thing, producing it as well. And there was one particular actor who was really important because the profitability of the project depended on his advertisement that we were shooting. And he literally texted me the night before saying that he just didn't want to come. And it was devastating. And I literally had like a breakdown where I was like regressed into a childlike state and thought to myself, well, I'm just going to go and sleep for the rest of my life. Like I'm not gonna work anymore ever. I'm not doing business. It was so painful. And I wanted to text him back and unleash wrath and fury upon him. But instead, I just did nothing. I just left the phone, I went up to my room, and I just laid down and breathed. I thought to myself, what's the next best thing I can do? I had one last card in my hand to play, I suppose. And there was this understudy, so like it was a different actor, but I hadn't even spoken to him. I didn't know where he lived, didn't know what part of the country he was in, and the shoot was like literally the next day. Rather than listening to the voice in my head that was saying that I was useless and I'd failed and I should just take the hit. Like keep in mind, I'd spent like $4,000 up front on all of these things and people and rentals. And if this didn't go ahead, then I wasn't going to get paid by the client. So I did the only thing I could do, which was text this guy, even though my head was saying, well, what's the point? Like, it's not going to work. In fact, I didn't even have his phone number. So I went and creeped him up on Instagram and sent him a message there. And he got back to me right away. And he was like, yeah, sounds great. I'll take the day off work. And thankfully he came and it sorted the whole thing out. But that has been such an incredible learning experience, because I realized that even when things are really going against you and people are like not doing what you want them to do, and the money's all in the wrong places, you can still figure out a way. So wherever you're at right now, just do the next best thing that you can, and a lot can change pretty quickly. Now with that type of work specifically, I've stopped doing it because it's too stressful and I just don't want to do it. And this is where we come into the freedom aspect, because, you know, in many ways that is freedom, because I get to, you know, do it on my own terms and organize it. But it's quite challenging in the sense there's a lot of stuff that I don't personally want to do. I don't like managing people. What I've done now is I've created an ecosystem through the content that I share in this channel. I have become one of those people who has a famous newsletter with intelligent people that are all signed up and receive my insights every week, which you can sign up to in the description. I figured out that framework, that pipeline, to allow me to just express the things that are going on in my life, the things that I enjoy. You know, I get to document and share my journeys and my adventures, and it generates revenue. And all it took was about 7 years of trial and error and figuring out the different systems and frameworks that allow this to work around me and for me. Now, if I could figure it out, you can do it too. Or better yet, you can just watch my step-by-step guide. It's in this video here. It'll show you exactly what I did to create a life of freedom where I get to pursue my interests and earn a good living doing so using content and the internet. I'll see you over there.